Well, good afternoon and welcome back to this month's Plugin Roundup. It is February 2019, and this is the webinar where we look at all the plugins that were added or recently updated in the WordPress plugin directory over about the last 30 days and bring you a nice list of a bunch of fun and useful stuff. And as I was mentioning in the pre-show, this is an above-average list of plugins, in my opinion. There's some really cool stuff here. There's a couple that I actually might start to drop into my theme and plugin stack with a little more testing. But yeah, some really cool stuff today that I think you will enjoy. If you're just joining us and go to webinar, make sure you head to the chat room at ithemes.com/chat, ithemes.com/chat, and you will find the handout there. Again, my name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at iThemes Training, and this is one of my favorite webinars of the month. This is something we've been doing for several years now, and it's always a lot of fun. So you should have this handout, February 2019 Plugin Roundup, and we're going to start with a plugin called Complete Open Graph. Complete Open Graph. Now, we're working today over at wpnathan.com. That's our dummy trial site here to do all our testing of these plugins, and we're looking for Complete Open Graph. Now, how many of you know what Open Graph actually is? Open Graph. So Open Graph, yeah, and that's what I found a lot, my own worst enemy. You know, we've heard of it, not quite sure what it is. So Open Graph is it's like a common way of making sure social networks know what the title of the post is, the description, the featured image, all those sorts of things, right? So getting Open Graph right is pretty important. Now, a lot of themes will do this for you. A lot of like Yoast SEO has, the social portion of that includes things like, okay, what do you want the social title to be and the social featured image and all of that. That is all the Open Graph stuff. But if you're not using Yoast SEO, or if your theme doesn't support Complete Open Graph, or sometimes maybe your theme kind of supports it and things are just kind of weird, this is a plugin that's going to fix all those issues, and it's fantastic. So let's have a quick look at Complete Open Graph. It's here under Settings for Open Graph, and you just have a lot of different options here. Now, by default, it's very straightforward, and you can set up some master settings, but then there's also a meta box that's added to each page and post, so you can tweak the global settings if you so desire. So right here, you can go through and set the master settings for the website. So right here, what do you want the Open Graph type to be? In most cases, it's going to be website. Just leave that alone. Title, the site title is going to be used here. If there's not a specific page or post title, the description, the site description is used unless your description for the page or post overrides that. So down underneath here, you can set a default image. So if when you share your posts on Facebook, no image appears because maybe there's not a featured image, you can set a default shared Open Graph image for the whole site. So what we can do is come in here and say, all right, let's put the skipper in there. And now for every post we share that doesn't already have a featured image defined, it's going to automatically share this image, right? Pretty cool. And by the way, all these forced default, you can check this, and it's going to show this image now for everything I share, whether it has a featured image on the post or not. So you can override everything with that setting, which is pretty nice. If you if you're using Facebook Insights, what you can do is put in here the administrative ID, the person's ID who's an administrator of the Facebook page that you're using to get insights. It'll combine the views so you can see your website statistics in those Facebook reports as well, the Facebook Insights. You'll need an app ID, so you have to set that up as well. Does a similar thing for Twitter, how you want the site to be shared on Twitter. What kind of card do you want to use? Large summary app, a player, that can all set up right there. And again, the Twitter description, your handle, what Twitter site, for the site owner is there. Now, these are all the default settings, but if we go over here, for example, to posts and look at a post, you will discover that underneath here, there's now a meta box for Open Graph. So you can customize the way it looks. So if you don't put in a description, then it's just going to use the post excerpt, which is probably the first, 30 or 40 words here of the post itself. Or, if you actually write a post excerpt, I have that hidden right now. But if you actually are writing the post excerpt, by default, whatever you put in the excerpt is going to be shared. But if you want to tweak even that, you can change what you want to display in Open Graph per page and post. And this, by the way, also works on custom post types like products for your WooCommerce site. So when you look at your products, there's going to be a meta box right here that you can tweak the way it looks when it is shared. So the question, is there any benefit over using Yoast SEO? If you're using Yoast SEO, no, this is it. Yoast does this already. But a lot of sites are not using it because they don't need all the functionality of Yoast SEO, but they do want stuff to be shared correctly on social media. So this is a great plugin to do exactly that. So again, it works globally, and there's per page and post settings, and it can be really, really helpful when you're trying to deal with all these Open Graph issues. All-in-one SEO, same thing. It has global settings as well as per post settings. Right? So this is just that piece of the puzzle. And just like the plugin author says, this plugin does Open Graph, freaking good Open Graph. And it does. It works great. So if that's what you're looking for, this is a great solution. Now, before we go past this issue of Open Graph, I do want to make sure you're aware of another tool. It's not a WordPress plugin, but it's something you need to know about if you're doing anything with social sharing of WordPress content. How many times have you ever gone, and let's just view this post, and you want to share this? I'm not signed into Facebook, or maybe I am. Let's see. Well, you want to share this on Facebook, and it doesn't share, or maybe you've updated the featured image, but that featured image is not showing on Facebook. Have you ever had that issue where the incorrect Open Graph information is being shared? Yeah, so if you're not aware of it, there's a great tool here called the Facebook Debugger right there. And if all you have to literally do, if you'll just Google Facebook Debugger, it's going to come up right here at the top. And you, by the way, you do have to be signed into Facebook to view this because you have to be, there has to be a Facebook account associated with whoever's viewing this. But literally what you can do is drop in your URL to the debugger, click debug, and it's never been shared before, so we're going to fetch new information. Facebook is now going out to scrape that URL. It's Heather, exactly. Sometimes you have to wait for Facebook to fix itself. This tool forces the fix, okay? So this gives you a capture of what does it look like when it's being shared. There it is, right there. Now, if you go and change the featured image or the title or something like that, and you want to change it, a lot of times, Facebook caches this stuff for an indeterminate amount of time. It can be a long time. So if you make a change to the title or the description or the featured image, and you want that to show immediately, you need to come to this URL. And by the way, in my experience, matter of fact, let's just do that. Let's change the featured image real quick. And let's put a new one there. We'll just put in, how about the Jeffersons? Okay, and when we scrape, okay, see, it didn't work the first time. In my experience, you have to scrape a couple times. But there, eventually it will show up 2 or 3 times of scraping, and it will re-scrape it. And now every time this post is shared from this point forward, Facebook pulls in the correct information. Now, this does not work for previously shared posts. So, if you've shared a post and it's not correct, you can either delete the post and reshare it or whatever. It's not going to work on previously shared times, but anything from this point forward, it's going to give the correct image. Make sense? This, by the way, is also part of my launch process for a website. So I make sure the Open Graph sharing is correct. And if not, make the changes and go in here and rescrape until it shows the correct thing. So you ought to be doing that every time you launch a site just to be sure that stuff is sharing correctly. Make sense? So that was a little bunny trail, but all about Open Graph. And if you're not using one of the big SEO plugins, all sites don't necessarily need that. If you're not optimizing for SEO, those plugins are pretty bloated. If you just want Open Graph, this one does great Open Graph. Make sense? Any questions or comments about this before we move on? Okie dokie. Well, let us move to plugin number 2 while we're talking about social sharing. And this is a great little plugin called Share This Image. And if you have a site where you want the images to be shared on social media, maybe you've got memes in a blog post, or maybe you've got, products or whatever it is, you want these images to be shared, this is a beautiful tool to do that. So let's activate, what was it called? Share This Image. And all we have to do is view an image, and look what we get. Beautiful sharing buttons on mouse over. Isn't that nice? And there's some that do this, and some of them are older and kind of buggy. This one works really, really well. So if you want the image to be shareable, but you don't want the buttons to be there all the time, I wouldn't. There it is. And all people have to do is just click, and it brings up the little Twitter handle, the Twitter share. Now, I'm not logged into Twitter on this user account, but you can log in and tweet right here. It just links right over to the share for Twitter. Now, there are some settings that are helpful. Let's see where those are. All right. Where have they hidden the set? Right down there. It has its own menu item. So that's a pet peeve of mine. And okay, here we go. So where are they going to appear? Anything with IMG on it. That's what we want. Minimum width and minimum height of the image in order to have it shareable. There you go. You can put your Twitter handle right here, and it will share via. Does it work on mobile? Is it always going to show on or off? And do you want to use that intermediate page? You do. That's this little pop-up right here. Yeah, you want to do that. So there you go. The question is, can you share the buttons horizontally? I don't believe so. No. Nope. So they go right here. Question setting for mobile. Yeah, mobile no hover. Yes, you can go right down here. Enable on mobile, on or off. Let's see. If the image is linked to a lightbox or post, does this cause a conflict? No, because you're not clicking the image. This, if we look at what's going on here, this is an overlay to the image itself. Let's see if we can find it here. Right. Well, where is it? Well, I can't find where the sharing buttons are appearing here. Yeah, I don't know, but it's just an overlay. It's a long-winded answer to say it should not affect the link to a post or anything like that. Matter of fact, right here, this is just the blog page, and if we click the image, it goes to the post, just like we'd expect it to. It just overlays the image with these social sharing buttons. So pretty cool. If you have a site where you want the stuff shareable, this is a really nice way to do that. All right, any other questions or comments? By the way, you can put whatever, these are drag and droppable, so you can put whatever networks you want over here, order them in whichever way you want them, and that's simple. They just appear right here. Janet, if you have a copyright image on one page, can you disable it for one image? No, because it says selector. I wonder if we can... I wonder if that works with a class and not just the tag. Let's see what the image class attachment large. Let's try that. or actually let's do WP post image as our selector and see if maybe you can add a CSS class instead of IMG for images, and let's see if that works. No. So that's not working. Maybe it needs to be dot. Yes. Okay, look at that. So you could put a class for, but then you'd have to add that class to all images that you wanted to have shareable. So maybe you could do, the image class is shareable, and you just, in your media library, you'd have to go into the image and say, gosh, you'd actually have to, it's going to get complicated. So, yeah, that's going to get complicated. The short answer is yes, but you're getting into something there. You'd have to manually go in and add that probably in the HTML, in the text editor. So not fun. Let's put it that way. All right, any other questions on this one? Share this image. Pretty cool plugin. Nice, simple sharing buttons. Doug, do I have a single page where you have all the plugins from the Roundups corralled? No, but I've thought about that. I just have not had the bandwidth to put something like that together. I've actually thought about putting a website together just for that, but haven't had the time. Okay, so you guys are voting for that, huh? That'd be pretty fun. I think so too. I think it would be fun to have make those, like, plugins would be a custom post type, and we'd have reviews and maybe vote, thumbs up to vote plugins up for the most favoritist. Star ratings, yeah, okay. All right. So that's getting a lot of feedback. Okay, we'll see what we can do about that. I'm not promising anything, but I think that'd be fun too. Okay. Well, thanks for that input. Thanks, Doug, for bringing that up. John, that is a lot longer of a project than just an afternoon drive. Plus, I'm getting into the convertible this afternoon, no matter what. I've been waiting for nice weather. Okay, enough about me. Let's move on to the next plugin here. That is Unlist Posts and Pages. Unlist Posts and Pages. Now, okay, have you ever had the situation where you do not want a particular piece of content to show up in the WordPress search? Like, for whatever reason, you don't want it. Maybe it's a membership site, and, in your membership plugin doesn't automatically hide those. Most membership plugins do, but maybe some don't. Or it's just a piece of content you don't want people to find by searching on your site. This is going to do that. Now, you can obviously do that in WordPress, just core WordPress, by going in here to the page and setting the visibility to private. However, that means you got to be logged in to view it, right? This will, the private will pull it out of search results, but you got to be logged in. So that's not great. But this plugin, watch what it's going to do. Let's see. Where is it? Unlist. Posts and pages. And the settings are under what? All right, where are you? Settings. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. Oh, no, it doesn't have a settings page. What you do is you go, Ron, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to go you go to a post, and there is now a meta box on the side right there. Unlist this post. So per page and post, you simply click this box and it's unlisted. So let me show you how this is going to work. Let's go and search, for thank you for being a friend. And there it is, search results. Boom. Right there is the post we want. But if we make it unlisted and we search, it's not there anymore. Now that phrase appears in all of these TV show posts, but the titled post is now not in search results. So that's really helpful if you have content that you do not want to be found. Now, I had to do this for a few sites a couple of years ago, and there's a function you can put in where you can, goes into functions.php, and there's an array of post IDs, and you have to manually put in there, the ID of the page or post. Is kind of a pain. This way, there's a nice little meta box. The client can manage it if they want to. It's a page they don't want people to see in search, and you simply unlist the post. Now, a couple of questions have come in. Ron and Marianne, you're asking basically the same question. Is this like what the Yoast MetaBox does? Does it block robots? No, this is just for WordPress search. So if you want this to be hidden from Google, let's get the Yoast plugin installed. I thought I had that installed, but I do not. What you would have to do is go into Yoast or All-in-One SEO, whatever you use, and they both have a feature to go in here. Where is it? Let's see. They've moved stuff around so much lately. It's not sharing. It's under allow search engines to show the post. No. Follow links on the post. No. Right? So this is where you no index the page if you don't want it to be found on Google either. So you'd have to have, this additional settings. What this plugin does is deal with WordPress search. So if you need to make the content no index, you got to use Yoast or some other tool to do that. What this does is affect WP Query. So by the way, not only does this affect the WordPress search, but what you can also, it's also going to function on your blog page listings, for example. So, if we go, we need to put this, let me set this back, or I'm going to confuse myself on the featured image when I'm looking at posts later. When we go on this post, for example, we go to our blog. Look, this thank you for being a friend is the first post that's listed. But if we unlist it, even on the blog page listing, it doesn't appear. This also works with anything that uses WP Query. For example, page builder modules that are creating post grids. So if you use the Beaver Builder or Elementor or Divi modules, to show a post grid, it's going to make sure they don't show in that as well. So it's really useful if you have content that should not be shown in a grid like that. Let's see. Does it work on post categories? I haven't. I'm not sure. It does not work on post categories. No, it's only on individual pages or posts. Jesse, using Yoast does not affect someone who uses your search box. No, that setting on Yoast only affects search engines. So when you're doing the delist, let's go back into that post again and look at that meta box. All right, so when you are in Yoast and you're doing this thing, this is allow search engines, not the WordPress search. This is external search engines. You are delisting it from the sitemap when you do this, from the sitemap.xml sitemap, the robot sitemap, and you are telling robots not to follow it. It's on that no follow list in your robots.txt. But this does not affect the WordPress search, this feature here in Yoast SEO. That's, goodness. Pardon me. That's why you need this plugin, Unlist Posts and Pages. All right, Heather is saying, could you use, let's see, Yoast, Advanced, Admin. Okay, I'm not seeing that. That at least is not in the free. Click the Archives tab. No, what this area does is everything Yoast is about search engines and Google. Google, Bing, come into your site. Yoast does not affect the WordPress search. Okay? Yep. So if you want to delist an archives page, you can do that right here, absolutely, from search engines. But the WordPress search is not a search engine. WordPress search is just the WP query function. And that's what this plugin deals with. Okay. Any other questions on this? Though, if I save page as private or draft, does that block both? Yes. Draft, it's not even on the site at all. Private means, well, let me show you what that looks like. A private, if you publish something as private, let's just take that off completely. Visibility, private. Let me get the URL. And let's open up a private browser. That's what happens when you try to visit a private page. So it's a 404. Jesse's asking, what is pending review versus draft? So, all right, pending review. If you have authors set up on your site, then they do not have the ability to publish a post. So if you have a user that's an author, they cannot. It's editors and above that can actually publish. Authors cannot publish a post. So when they hit the button, it puts it in this pending status that then an editor would have to go in, editor administrator would go in and publish it. Does that make sense? So it's part of the workflow of WordPress as a blog. Content workflow. Make sense? Okay. Let's fix this real quick. Okay. If there are no other comments about this one, we will move down to one of my most favoritist plugins ever, and that is Enable Media Replace. It just got an update not long ago, but if you're not using this one, you need to be. It is awesome. This is one that is in every site that I build, and you are correct. There is a typo in the URL. So just go to plugins, enable-media-replace. That'll take you there. But this is a plugin I use on every single site. It actually made the best of list in 2017, but we haven't talked about it in over a year. So if you haven't seen this one yet, you are in for a treat. It is absolutely spectacular. Enable Media Replace. It's not on. I didn't install it. All right, let's add new. And activate. And where this one comes in handy is, let's say you've got this featured image or it's some image, whatever. Let's just look. Maybe you've got an image that is in lots of places throughout your site. Let's just say this image, for whatever reason, we've got that on 38 pages on our site. And, this is the picture of the CEO of the company. And, the CEO gets a new picture and he or she wants it updated throughout the site. Now, if you don't have this plugin, what you're going to end up doing is going through manually looking for every instance of that stupid picture and having to replace it. But what you can do with this is right here on this page, click upload a new file and just drop in another file here. And it automatically replaces that image. It replaces this image with the new image. So everywhere this image is on the site, the new image appears. It also works, by the way, with anything in the media library. That includes images, PDFs, video, audio, anything that's in the media library, you can replace. So right here, we've got this MP4. If we want to put another video here, look, upload a new file, and it goes. If you've got a PDF file, same difference, upload a new file, and it just updates everywhere this attachment has been put. It is so stinking simple and easy. It is a huge time saver. So that's why it made the best of list in 2017. And that's why I'm mentioning it again, because we haven't done so in a little over a year. And this particular plugin has saved me so much time that if you're not aware of it, I wanted to make you aware of it. So a lot of folks are saying in the chat, yep, extremely useful. I could not agree more. Question, how can you tell which images are on what pages? That's a great question, Doe. And there's probably a plugin for that. But otherwise, you just kind of have to, I'm not sure how to answer that question. I'm sure there are tools, but I'm not aware of one. So that's why you want this plugin. Any other questions on this one? Yes, Doe, you have stumped me. I promise you, it doesn't take a lot to do that. All right. Moving on down the list. So, by the way, I told you this was a good list of plugins, right? These have all been great so far, and there are more. Several of the simple but useful categories. And the first one is version info. Okay. You are probably aware that down here, you see the current version of WordPress, right? At the bottom right of your WordPress install. However, who knows what you see if the current version of WordPress, let me say that again. Who knows what you see when the version of WordPress you're running is not the current version of WordPress? What do you see there? Does anybody know? What you see there is update to version blah, blah, blah of whatever, like let's just say the new version just dropped. It's 5.0.4. We would no longer see 5.0.3. We would see upgrade to 5.0.4. And you can't tell what version of WordPress it is. If you go to the updates page right now, you are running the latest version of WordPress. If you need to reinstall it, you can do so here. If you have an update that's pending, it doesn't show what the current version of WordPress is. It says update to the new version of WordPress. As a matter of fact, the only way, aside from getting into the core files, the only way I know to actually find the current version of WordPress is go into a page, whoops, wrong thing, viewing source, and search for meta name equals generator. And right here, you'll find the current version of WordPress. Unless, for security purposes, you've disabled that. Then I don't know how you know what current version of WordPress is. It might be in one of the README files or something, but it's not easy. That's my point. It is not easy to know. Now, why, you say, would you need to know this? Well, let's say you're looking at a site for the first time, and it's somebody that wants you to do some updates on their site or whatever. You're trying to find out what the current version of WordPress is, and 9 times out of 10, one of these sites that you're taking on doesn't have that information. Okay, so Ben is saying we can go to the in short or at a glance. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so it is there at a glance. You're right. Okay, it's a little easier than I thought it was going to be. I normally have this disabled already, but there you go. Okay, you could do that. But this plugin is also going to do some cool stuff for you. Even though that's there, hey, I've learned 2 things today. Ben and Doe get the prize. 4 copies of the handout apiece. There you go. So this plugin is going to do something cool, but it's going to do something even cooler when I show you the next thing to do with it. So let's go down to WordPress version info. It's dirt simple. Install it, activate it, and look what you get down here. Wow, you get some information, which I find pretty helpful. Matter of fact, this is the kind of thing I might actually want on all my sites. It's showing me the current version of WordPress, the PHP version, what the server is, and what my MySQL database is. That's pretty nice to have, I think. And if a current version is available, it's going to show it. Now, actually, let's do this. Let's activate WP Downgrade. This is a plugin that we talked about several months ago. And I'm going to go to WP Downgrade. This is going to let us downgrade core versions. We're at 503. We're going to pop it down to 502. And what we need to do is go and reinstall that version. And okay, we are now running WordPress 5.0.2. And let me deactivate that plugin, because this plugin actually fools WordPress into thinking that 5.02 is the current version. All right, so now look what we get. You're running 5.02. You need to get version 5.03, and it still gives you all your stuff here. I like that a lot. So Jesse, do you really want to show the database name? It's not. That's not the database name. It's the version of MySQL and the fact that it's running the Maria database engine instead of the standard MySQL engine. Which, by the way, I would recommend that. If you can get Maria running, it's faster than the standard MySQL engine. Good web hosts will support Maria. So anyway, this just gives you that information. Now, that's pretty cool. Let me show you what I've done to take it to the next step. And that is, let me pull over here. We're in now, wpnathan.com. I'm going to drill down to the plugin. And we've done this before with certain plugins. WP version info right there. Now look, when it's a simple plugin like this, it's probably going to be a single file plugin. You guys see that? A single file plugin right here. This is the only code we need to have to make this happen down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this code. I'm just going to drop it in my functions.php. Boom. And now I'm going to go in here and deactivate version info. And now I'm going to save my functions.php. And look, I get it right there. It's simple code. Let's say for whatever reason, I don't want to show the PHP version. Well, you can kind of look at this PHP and say, all right, here's where it's showing you are running WordPress blah, PHP blah, whatever. Look at this. I'm just going to delete this part where it would show Apache. And that should, look at that, removed it. So you can tweak this a little bit. You make it say whatever you want to say right there. So you can put it here in your functions.php, or actually best practice would be to put this in a custom functions plugin that you would put in your MU plugin. So I'm just going to make a, let's see. Well, we've talked about that before. It's going to go beyond our scope of time today. But you get the idea. You can just move that right over to functions.php or your own custom functions plugin, and you get some pretty cool stuff happening. So now we're back to normal. And let's go ahead and re-upgrade again to 503 so everything is up to date. All right, any questions or comments about this? Hopefully that was helpful. That's version info. All right, moving on down the list to a plugin by Scott DeLuzio, who was just with us last week, I believe. He's the one that had the GDPR plugin that's really cool. Scott's a great developer, and he's given us a plugin, again, simple but useful, number 2, called Debug Info. And I, again, did not update the URL. Sorry about that. It's a bad month for that. I need a plugin called Edit Your Stinking Handout. That's what I need. But just change that to Debug Info, and I'll fix that in the handout that goes on the replay. All right, so Debug Info. We've done several plugins like this that kind of give you some information about your install. This one I like. It is pretty straightforward. What you're going to get is under the dashboard menu, you get a link that says Debug Info. And here's the basics right here. Version, theme, author, active plugins, PHP version, SQL, Apache version is not available. And look, boom, show details. You get a ton of information all about what's going on with your PHP processors, CGI processors, all of this. Look at all this stuff. Lots, many things. All of the things are listed here. This is actually just PHP info, if you're familiar with that. It just echoes all that right here as well. But everything else that's going on with your WordPress install. So if you are struggling with a plugin and the developer wants more information about your environment, boom, give them this, because all you have to do at this point is print this page. Save it to a PDF. And there's all your stuff. Hey, you want to know what's going on my site? Here you go. Here's a 13-page PDF. Right? It's super simple, but it can be very helpful. Simple but useful. Number 2, that is debug info. Janet, does this help determine conflict between plugins? No. All this plugin does is echo out the environment information, which is oftentimes what a developer needs to take you to the next step if there's really some issue with the plugin. Now, we did a plugin not too long ago called WP Safe Mode by Marcus Sykes that is it lets you enable and disable plugins just for your user to make sure, to see if there's any conflict. So that was a good one from a few months ago. That was called WP Safe Mode. So it lets you, WP Safe Mode, again, lets you enable and disable all plugins. That's what plugin support usually tells you to do. But you don't want to do that for a live site. But this lets you just disable plugins for your user to see if that fixes the issue. Okay, any other questions about this one? Debug info. Our next and final simple but useful plugin number 3 is Reading Position Indicator. Reading Position Indicator. This is by Marcin Pizzarak. I'm going to pronounce that wrong, I'm sure. But this is really cool. If you have content-oriented websites, this is a great little plugin because what it's going to let you do, let's go in and activate it. Reading Position Indicator. This is going to put a bar at the top of your pages and posts. Look at that. Watch it go up here. See, it's red. And as you go down the page, it lets you know where you are on the page. So particularly if you have long-form content on your site, this is a nifty little tool, just a little extra something for your readers. I'm trying to find where the settings are for this. They're under Appearance, Progress. Okay, so this lets you decide where's it going to display. And look, it will display on custom post types. There's our products custom post type. You can display it based on position. You can change what does the color look like. Is it solid? Is it indeterminate? I'm not sure what that means. Is it a gradient? How thick is it going to be? Like we can make it really thin. And here's where we can set our colors. Let's do something that better matches our particular site. Let's make this a darker blue. And we'll make this one a lighter blue. You can set all the opacities, all this stuff you can deal with. So the color can match a little easier. Let's make it a little wider, and I'll show you something else cool. You can also set the radius. So you can do a lot of stuff with the appearance here. So if you have a content-heavy website, this is a nice little addition that you can tweak and customize to, just make the reading experience a little better. Is there any way to convey what the bar and colors mean to the visitors? Not through this plugin. However, I think, particularly on long content, let's see, one of these pages is super long. Yeah, but on content, they'll see as they scroll down, this thing is getting bigger. So, one would think that, you'd figure that out. How does it work with sticky menus? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but let's go in here and make this menu sticky. I think we can do that. Layout, header, primary header. I think it's in here. Oops. My guess is it's going to overlay over the top of that menu. Should be. Well, I can't find it right now. My brain's not working. Likely it's going to overlay over the top. And it could be that what you do is do the placement. Like if we set this for 45 pixels, I think that offsets it from the top. No. Yeah, so Heather's right. You just need to modify the CSS. So not easy. If you're using a sticky header, may not be the best option. Okay, any other questions on this? Simple but useful reading position indicator. Okay, moving on down our list, getting ready to land the plane. Got a couple of more. Here's a good idea or bad idea plugin. It's called Slim SEO. So we talked earlier about, social sharing and Open Graph and Yoast and all-in-one SEO both contain those features, but a lot of times, you don't have those plugins installed on sites. They just don't require that level of SEO, but you want something. And that's where Slim SEO comes in. That's why this developer created it. He said there's too many SEO plugins on the market. They have too many options, very complicated. His thing is, look, basic SEO ought to be baked into WordPress, and I kind of agree with him on that. Slim SEO, let's activate it. There are no settings, none. But what it's going to do is make sure that your title tag, meta description, and Open Graph tags are automatically generated. It takes care of everything. And if you want to know what's happening, he describes it here on the page. It's going to make sure that the title of the post is the correct title on that's handed to search engines and also to Open Graph. Meta description, same way. Open Graph, same way. Optimizing for Twitter. It creates an XML sitemap automatically just by activating it. If we go here, we have a sitemap. Oh, Yoast is active. Hang on. We have a sitemap that plugin creates. So all you have to do is activate it, and you get decent basic SEO. It does have breadcrumbs in a in a shortcode as well. It will add missing alt attributes for images. So, what do you think? Good idea or bad idea? Slim SEO. A no settings SEO plugin. So one vote for good. What do you think? Cheryl, you have no control over the content. Well, that's not exact. I know what you're saying. That's not exactly true because it does take what you put in for the title and everything else, and that's what it hands. And you would think that, yes, this is what I want for the title. Yeah, okay, so Karen, that's an interesting point. This might be a great solution to put on a site where the client is not going to keep up doing the correct SEO, per page and post optimization. Just to activate this and at least the basics are done, right? Doug, yep. Core WordPress. I kind of think you're right on that one. All right, so a mixed bag, but mostly good opinions of Slim SEO. I kind of tend toward that as well. There are certain sites that the client's not paying me to do any SEO for, aside from just the basic SEO on the site itself, making sure the site is built to be SEO friendly. And activating this plugin on the site, not necessarily a bad idea. Trish says, "I'll tell you after SEO boot camp." That's going to be great next week. We're going to have a lot of fun with that one. Lindsay's fantastic, by the way, isn't she? Have you guys enjoyed Lindsay's instruction? Lindsay Halsey is a fantastic SEO educator. Okay. So that is Slim SEO. Moving on down the list to, this is a good one, y'all. Controlled admin access. Controlled admin access. So Trish, this is your first iThemes training webinar. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Everybody welcome Trish there in the chat. So this has been a good plugin roundup for you if it's your first time. This is better than average. Lots of cool stuff. Okay, so controlled admin access. Here's where this comes in handy. How many of you have ever done this? You have needed plugin support or support for a theme, and they need to have admin access to your website to go look at something. And so you create that admin login, the issue gets solved, and you promptly forget that that admin login exists. And a year later, you log into the site and go, oh, well, they can still access my website. Yeah, I've done it too, okay? So it's easy to forget. This plugin is brilliant because it handles that, okay? It's built to give a temporary and even potentially limited admin access to those sorts of people, theme support, other developers, whatever. So let's go here and activate controlled admin access. And under, I believe it is, the users menu, we now have a new link. Look at that. Okay, so we're going to create a new user. We're going to call this test user, test admin, whatever. And an email address here. That actually doesn't exist, but there you go. So, whoops. Crap. Well, didn't mean to do that. But so what we can do here is you create a user, you give it an email address, and right here, look, if there's no reason, for example, that this plugin developer ought to need to get to Backup Buddy, turn it off. Boom, they can't get there. Boom, can't get to security. Boom, can't get to my Gravity forms. They don't need to get to this stuff. They don't need to get into my WooCommerce. They just need to get into plugins and maybe some settings or whatever, right? You can turn off the areas of the site that user is not allowed to access. You can set their password, and look here. You can set this to expire either never, in 1 day, or in 3 days. So pretty cool. Now, this is similar to what iThemes Pro does with temporary privilege escalation, but it does add this little bit of feature right here, which is access to certain areas of the site. So Ron is saying you can use this for some clients, not just third-party developers. You can, but this is for an admin user account. I normally give clients editor access for the normal use of their site. I do usually give them an administrator account, but only kind of, break the glass in case of emergency sort of situation. In my own worst enemy, yes, that is a weakness. They only have these 3 options. So maybe you want 7 days, but that's not an option currently. You can also, right here in this tab, you can look at all of the temporary users that you have created. And there's some support information for the plugin. So it's pretty cool. Doe, question, can we convert existing admin accounts to this? No, you would have to recreate that admin account underneath this plugin. If one expires, can you add time to it? I have no idea. Can we edit this one? Yes. Look at that. You can add time right there. Nifty. So there you go. 1 or 3 day option. So I like this one. Controlled admin access. Any other questions or comments about this? All right, one more and we land the plane, and that is WP email users. So how many of you have ever searched for a way to easily email all the people who have subscribed to your blog? It shouldn't be that hard, right? When somebody signs up as a user for WordPress, they're a subscriber. Whenever you post a new blog post, they get an email, but you can't, for whatever reason, in core WordPress, email your subscribers or, by any rule. This plugin lets you do that and more. This I mean, we're ending with a bang here because this plugin is pretty stinking awesome. So let's activate email users and look at everything this is going to let us do. We have a number of different options. This is almost like a scaled down version of MailChimp or Constant Contact for the back end of WordPress. What this is going to let us do, there's a template manager where you can set up a template or define your own template. There's some short codes to put in here as placeholders. You can use HTML, of course, right here. You can create multiple templates. Like let's just look at this template. Actually, we need to do an email first, but you can define multiple templates here. You can also, we'll come back to this in a minute, have multiple lists. Look at this. We can create a new list. I have one there already. And look here. Add members to the list manually, just like you would in MailChimp. You can export it. You get a list of all the emails you sent here. Some basic analytics as well. And if we want to go send an email, we can do that. Do we want to send it to a particular user, a role on our site, one of our predefined lists? We don't have any groups set up, or that could be set up there. Do we want to BCC the email? So let's say we want to send it to subscribers with a BCC to authors. We can do that, or to BCC it to a list. Let's select a template. All right, here's our template. And it's easier to edit in HTML here. So this is, the editor is not great. That's the one drawback of this one. The editor is not great, but you can hammer out an HTML email. Melanie's saying with this, you could export a list of subscribers to your Constant Contact list. Yeah, you can do that. Doug, Ron, will this use Gutenberg? Maybe. I don't know. Good question. A couple of questions about the email that is used. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. How is this used to send? What sends this email? So you can see it's pretty full-featured. Now, it has in itself an SMTP configuration. So if you want to set up an SMTP account, using, a standard, the STMP through your server, you can do that. Just make sure it has, the domain key set up, all the record is set up for that. The SPF and DKIM are both set up in DNS. That's bigger than this webinar would cover, but just make sure the email that's sent out is stamped correctly. But if you are using something like some transactional email service like SendGrid or Mailgun or Amazon SES, it's just going to use that. If you don't configure your SMTP, then it's just going to use the standard WP Mail function. And if you're using a transactional email plugin that takes over the WP Mail function, like SendGrid or Mailgun or Mandrill or Amazon SES, it's going to use that. So it's pretty nifty. Yeah, so if you don't want to get into, setting up lists in MailChimp and Constant Contact or whatever, this is a great way just to email all your subscribers anyway, without having to move them over into a third-party service. Email everybody at this role. Pretty sweet. So there are a few plugins for WordPress that do this sort of thing, but wow, this is the most powerful one that I've seen, and it looks pretty awesome. By the way, like any bulk email, make sure you don't get on spam reports. That's kind of goes without saying. All right, so thus, look at this. We're about to land the plane, and it's about to roll over to 2 o'clock exactly. So right at an hour, we timed that one perfectly. Thus, we have reached the end of another plugin roundup here on iThemes Training, and we end, as we always do, with the question, What was your favorite plugin of the day? One vote only in the chat. Let us hear your favorite plugin. Again, I go back and review the recordings to see which plugins were the favorites, and I use that to assemble the best of lists that we do every 6 months. So controlled admin access cup, 3 or 4 votes for that. Enable media replace, several votes for that. Unlist pages, lots of control admin, lots of media replace, reading position, controlled access, media replace. Those are winning the day. A vote for debug info. Anybody else want to weigh in? Media replace, yeah. All right, so thank you all for hanging out with me for the last hour. It's been a lot of fun. This is my favorite webinar of the month. Always have a lot of fun with this one. Next week is the SEO boot camp. So if you are a Toolkit member, you have free access to that. If not, I hope you have registered for that training. It's a great value. So that's coming up next week from Monday to Wednesday. Again, if you're in the Southwest of the United States and you're going to be at WordCamp Phoenix, I'll be speaking there next weekend. So be sure to come up and say hi. I'd love to meet you. My name is Nathan Ingram, and for all of us here at iThemes, we hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next time here on iThemes Training, where we go further together.